Andriy, welcome to RFI. It is really an honor to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to me to be with you in this studio as well.
My first question is, how is Ukraine receiving all these declarations and what seems to be a change of opinion, a change of position of America?
So, actually, for Ukrainians in the media field, in the media sphere, it was and it is a kind of disaster, unexpected, absolutely, because United States is the country which is and was the biggest and the most important ally for Ukraine and Ukrainians. And this turn of Trump's administration, at least in their statements, in declarations, looks very dangerous because nobody knows what's going to be the next. And will these statements, will this declaration would be converted into the reality on the ground? And this reality for Ukrainians could bring a lot of problems in the battlefield, because that's true, we depend from America in arms and armor and ammunition and financial aid. That's true, but not at the scale as Trump declared a couple of days ago, of course. And if they cut this aid, if they cut this supply of ammunition, for example, Ukrainian army would not be able to defend the country so effectively as it does now.
But Ukrainian will continue to fight.
Ukrainian will continue to fight, this no doubt, because we have no choice. This is the existential conflict. This is the existential war, and there are very serious things at stake. So we are talking about the survival of Ukrainians as a nation. So we see how Russians kill Ukrainians intentionally, not only military people, not only soldiers in the front line, but also civilians since the very beginning of this war. So we have now 150,000 war crimes committed by Russian military under investigation, which I'm talking about the diversity of crimes, from looting to, shooting Ukrainian prisoners of war, shooting them to death. And this should be stopped, of course. This should be stopped, and also this should be punished, because, as I like to say, unpunished evil always comes back twice as strong. The history says it.
You have first-hand experience with the Russians or pro-Russian Ukrainians. No, is it because I know that you have been taken prisoner, tortured, hostage.
Yeah.
And in 2014?
In 2014, in Crimea, the meeting with the pro-Russian forces, but I guess they were Russian forces disguised in civilian clauses. So the meeting with them costed me 6 broken ribs and a lot of problems with Ukrainian medicine. After that, I was treated in hospital after that, and I know that the Russians, in en masse, like French say, they hate Ukrainians. This is a result of Russian propaganda for more than 2 decades. And Ukrainians, for them, mean enemies. Ukrainians for Russian, the majority of Russian people, mean so-called traitors, because we always wanted to quit Soviet Union. And there is a myth in Russia that Ukraine have stolen Russia history. But situation is absolutely vice versa, because Russian history is based on the myth that Ukrainians are Russians also.
And you're not Russians, obviously.
So, so there are some pro-Russian Ukrainians, as you told, but the history is absolutely different, and the traditions are absolutely different. And if you know Ukrainian traditions, you wonder why so little similarity in Russian traditions and Ukrainian traditions, in songs, in national clothes, in cuisine, in many basic things which determine the nationality, ethnicity, let me say.
Andriy, what do you feel? What is the vibe that the European countries are sending Ukraine?
What do you mean?
What is if the Americans let go? What are the Europeans saying? Do they manage to reassure you that they will step in, that they will help as well?
I don't think that Europeans at the moment are able to deliver to Ukraine the sufficient level of military aid. That's absolutely no doubt. Let us be realists. But I know that Europe and Europeans will support Ukraine anyway. I think people in the offices in Berlin and Paris, in other European capitals, are smart and a bit smarter than present administration in Washington, and they realize that this could be a chain reaction. If Ukraine loses this war, I predict that the democratic alliances could disappear or dissemble. Of course, if Ukraine loses this war, this will affect NATO existence.
Who's next on his list?
I think Baltic countries.
Not Romania? Not Moldova? Not Romania?
I think Moldova is in their list, of course. So we know that they still feed so-called Transnistrian Republic, and they have their forces, but they are landlocked now because of Ukraine. They cannot deliver enough supplies over there, so they cannot even rotate their forces because of the war in Ukraine. But they use other possibilities in Moldova. For example, so-called Moldovan pro-Russian opposition and other tools to support this quasi-state inside Moldova. And of course, Transnistrian Republic is an asset of Russia. And of course, this is a threat. And
How worried should Romanians be?
They should be. They should be, but mostly they should be worried by the Russian interference in elections. For example, they have a huge propaganda machine. They have a huge machine that provides informational, psychological operations as well. They have no doubt, I have no doubt in that case, they have their assets, all around the Europe. And I think as well...
assets, you mean people or...
people, organizations, informational agencies. They created, for example, a huge network in Western Europe, huge network of so-called informational agencies that actually disperse propaganda, pro-Russian propaganda. And this is a huge machine, and it's costly, and they invested, and they are still investing a huge amount of money to such kind of operations. The main thing, I think, that people should be aware that there is no informational machine in Russia and military machine and the government. This is the entire system which works in connection with each other. This is the system. If they provide informational operations, it means this is a part of the bigger strategy, military strategy. That's what happened to Ukraine. And we Ukrainians know how this machine works, and Russian propaganda now has minimal effect to Ukrainians. That's true, because we know how it works. But Europeans, they don't. That's it. And they still believe in Russian propaganda dispersed through many sources.
I have one more question. There is a lot of tension in Romania also since the declarations of Donald Trump, since he attacked Volodymyr Zelensky. Romanians are wondering if NATO will retire, what will happen to them. What do you have a message for the Romanian people, considering coming from a country which is resisting Russia for so many years?
The message is very simple. I think personally that living standards in Europe are well connected to the values. And if you want to live good your life, you have to protect the democratic values. That's it. Values is not an empty word. This is what makes Europe Europe. This is what makes European people. And if you don't protect values, you will lose everything, including high living standards. Do not think materially. Do not think just in numbers. Think in values. This is what Ukrainians do. We protect values. We think the values could lead us to the better society. And the same to Europe. And let us be united.
Because Russia can be stopped. Look, Ukraine stops Russia for so many years. It's only 20% of its territory.
Russia doesn't want Ukraine be a successful country because it will be a signal to Russians that another country, which was a huge and very important part of Soviet Union, could escape from the dictatorship and build a normal society. Society with high living standards, with democratic values, with the freedom of speech, with many things many things we think are key and crucial for the normal country. So we have to be united. We have to protect values. My message to Romanians, to our friends in Romania, to our good neighbor is like that. Do not be afraid of Russia. Do not be afraid of Russia influence. Stand strong. Don't bend. And you will protect yourself and your country. That's what Ukrainians do. We want to inspire the entire world to be strong and to be ready to protect our values. That's it. And of course, we have to be united. That's my message.
Thank you, Andriy.